stopped me at your face. They spoke so firmly of your womanhood, your no-nonsense feeling mind. It was your eyes I first drifted into as a stranger, yet felt at home and not a wanderer, off base or offshore. And then I climbed your hair like a monkey, all excited, and wove my eyes about it, bonded myself to its rasta curls. Oh, how black the ochre and its wondrous sheen. I found your face, dear Camilla, so filled with the beauty of 1,000 African nights under stars hanging holographic bright, and your lips so like sweet wings and full as berries ripe for the sassy sucking of their juice, black and sure. In your face, filled with our ancestors, there's this certainty perched precariously on a doubt, a not too sure place twisted around the heart that speaks the heart's secrets against its will. But out from the juju jungle comes the spirit's whisper. Thou art lovely, dear dark queen. Sheba slipped you from her own loins, and there is no beauty but yours forever. And then you danced, Camilla. Your body found the rhythm, a drum chord. It moved along the chord, looking for eternity, searching within its own essence for a yes that would fling it as high as constellations or as low as moonlight skipping along the river's ripples, seeking the shore. You danced, Camilla, and all men loved you. All men knew you for all their women. All men loved you, Camilla, because you danced like a juju woman. You stirred the flame and melted their hearts like a juju woman, Camilla.
Beautiful, Camilla. Wow. Where'd you get the inspiration?
I ran into a lady in dreadlocks one day in, let me see, it was a paste store, one of those warehouse places, right? And I was looking at books, and on the other side of the counter was somebody else looking at books, and I happened to look up and see this woman, very dark, very luminous eyes with these dreadlocks. And I said, wow, I'd like to have her in the book, because I was still writing the pieces then, and I was looking for faces to put in the book. The book has 15 photos of African-American women, all different sizes, shapes, colors. And I had run into so many people that thought you were just hitting on them. You know, I didn't want to go through that. And so I said, well, as much as I would like to use her photos, she has such this great face, I'm not going to be bothered. And I left it alone and ended up turning around in the line, in the checkout line, and there she was behind me. And I said, no, this is fated. So I talked to her and I asked her would she be willing to be in the book, and she told me that she'd have to check with her husband. And I,
talk with her.
Yeah, I talked with her husband too. I called him up and talked with him. But that night, I wrote this poem.
Oh, okay.
And
that was her name.
Well, that's not her name. She's a married woman. So, yes. But for the purpose of the book, and so that no one would think that something had occurred between us.
Personal.
Right, personal, because I didn't know her and she didn't know me, but she acted as the lamplight for this poem, and that happens a lot. I know you're a writer, so you know what
that's
I mean.
Important. Because so many times it's hard because the way we're socialized, I guess, and it's hard for sometimes women to believe that a man can have a female friend. And sometimes it's hard for men, probably harder for men to believe that you could have a female friend and just be friends.
Yeah.
I have lots of female friends.
So do I, and several of them are in the book that are friends of mine that I worked with, I got to know them, because I just like women. I like them,
I love them.
They have a lot to bring to conversation. It's different than dealing with men, because men always, with men it's it's a competitive thing with men. I don't care what level you're on with them. Very rarely do you run into men where you don't find that between men to men. But when you're dealing with women, it's at another kind of level. Yeah, and it's a different kind of communications.
When I'm doing signings at some of the major bookstores in the area, I find that most of the people who buy my books are women.
Yeah.
I'm not saying brothers don't buy.
Yeah.
Men buy, but Mostly women.
Mostly women.
And I really can't. I really don't know why.
Well,
I ain't questioning it too much. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, well,
it's beautiful.
I think that, you know, for men, poetry has a different kind of ring. Now, once men read this, you know, the book, it's a whole different reaction then. Because when they think of poetry, they're thinking about something they hated in high school or junior high school.
And was forced to read.
And was forced to read, right. Same here.
Chaucer.
And that kind of stuff. But when they see what the poetry is about and the rhythm of it and how different that rhythm is from what they may have thought,
totally different.
Then I get just as many good responses from men about this book as I get from women. But I get more women buying the book first than I get men.
I find that it helps, like, when you're doing signings and that type of thing, if I read to people.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, poetry is meant to be read and shared, you know, aloud, and that type of thing. A lot of people don't know that, because, like you said, all the things some people know about poetry is that, well, I was forced to read in high school, and I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. And I've had people come up to me and say that very thing.
Yeah. Well,
I don't like poetry as a rule, but when I read to them and share with them, because they think it's, you know, something off on a tangent somewhere. I don't like poetry that starts off real nice and then go off on a tangent somewhere and you wonder what the heck they're talking about.
Right.
No, I like to speak right into the hearts of people so they know what I'm saying on many different levels at the same time.
I think people